All right, it's now 10 a.m., so we'll be starting today's MAG ITS committee meeting. First of all, we'll do a quick roll call to confirm that everybody, that we have a quorum and can conduct an official meeting. So as I call your name, please go ahead and respond in the affirmative. Susan Anderson.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hugh Big Dog.
Here.
Morning. Tricia Boyer.
Here.
Alan Galicia.
Here.
Albert Garcia.
Here.
Trini, I don't see you on the call yet. Bruce Littleton.
Here.
Steve McKenzie.
Here.
Scott Nodes.
Here.
Raquel Schatz.
Here.
Mike Sutton.
Here.
Dave Wire.
Here.
Tessa Wessel. Tessa, can you hear us?
Sorry, here.
Thank you. Tony Whitfield.
Here.
And Hong Huo.
Here.
All right, and I see someone with a phone number ending in 674. Could you please identify yourselves, please? All right. Is there anybody else that I have not called on?
Also, David, we have a phone number ending in 863. If someone can...
Yeah, Queen Creek.
I see that as well.
Okay.
863, that's you, Marshall?
Yeah.
Thank you, Marshall.
All right, good morning.
I need to get the computer to join us.
And it looks like April Wire is the number ending in 674. All right, with that, we have a quorum, so we can go ahead and conduct an official meeting. Thank you, everyone, for joining our first meeting of 2021. This is the January 6th meeting of the MAG ITS Committee. Just a reminder to please mute your microphone to eliminate any feedback. You will have the opportunity to raise your hand in the chat to be recognized, at which time you can unmute your microphone to speak. You can also use the chat feature to type in your question or comment. And when you begin speaking, please state your name and organization for identification purposes. So thank you, everyone. With that, we'll start with the next item on the agenda, which is call to the audience. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour before the posted start time. This is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG jurisdiction, but are not on the agenda or are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. MAG staff, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the ITS committee. There was no public comments received for this item or any other item on the agenda.
Thank you, Omar. With that, item 3 on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes. If you would, please take a moment to review the minutes from the December 2nd, 2020 meeting, if you have not already. We've already received one item from Scott Nodes about item 10 with the future meeting dates. If you have any others, please go ahead and indicate those in the chat, and I'll give you a few moments.
David, this is Bruce Sittleton from Phoenix. Move to approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Bruce. And we have Scott Nodes' hand up as a second. So I will now go ahead and do a roll call. Please respond in the affirmative or with a yay or a nay as I call on you for the motion to approve the meeting minutes. Susan Anderson?
Yay.
Hugh?
Yay.
Tricia?
Yay.
Alan?
Yay.
This is so nice of you all to have different first names. It makes it really easy. Albert?
Yay.
Srini? Srini? All right, we'll move on to Hong. Oh, Srini responded yes in the chat. Thank you, Srini. Hong?
Yeah.
Thank you. Bruce?
Yay.
Yin Yang?
Yay.
Steve?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Marshall?
Yes.
Raquel?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
April?
Yay.
Tessa?
Yay.
All right, and with that, the motion passes. We'll now move on to the item 4 on the agenda, the program manager's report. MAG TSMO program manager, Jeff Jenk, will now provide updates and a report to the committee. Jeff?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. First, I'd like to wish committee members and all those who participated in this meeting a happy, healthy, and productive new year. The first item, as usual, I would like to invite Ms. Tony Whitfield of the FHWA Arizona Division Office to provide an update on the latest federal initiatives. Tony?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I have a few items to update you on. The first is Federal Highway has issued a notice of proposed amendment. It was issued in December for the 11th edition of the MUTCD. And this will be the first time the MUTCD has undergone a comprehensive update in more than 10 years. So pretty exciting. There was a second notice that was issued also in December correcting a drafting error in 2 of the supplemental documents that were placed in the docket with the initial publication. But right now this is open for comment and the comment period closes on March 15th of this year. Federal Highway will host at least one webinar for stakeholders to discuss the proposed changes. That has not been scheduled yet, but I will keep you guys updated. The next item, NHTSA has published an advance notice of proposed rulemaking for automated driving system safety. So NHTSA has identified elements of a framework that are necessary for objectively defining and assessing automated driving system competence. And they are seeking public comment on the principles that may govern the safe behavior of these automated driving systems. So comments on this advance notice of proposed rulemaking are due February 1st. Next slide, please. The next item, USDOT has released a request for information regarding a new initiative, and this is the Inclusive Design Reference Hub. And this effort is intended to establish a library of resources for accessibility in automation. It will also work with outside experts to study voluntary best practices for ensuring accessibility in automated vehicles. So USDOT is inviting stakeholders to provide input on a few critical steps in this process, including the qualifications of entities that are best suited to perform this work and considerations to ensure long-term sustainability of the initiative. Responses to this RFI are due on January 20th. And then the final item I have is Federal Highway just awarded a few ATC MTD grants. That's Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Deployment. There were 10 projects awarded, valued at just under $50 million. And with all of these projects, they're using advanced ITS technologies that will improve mobility and safety, as well as support vehicle connectivity. For this application, or for these grants, Federal Highway evaluated 46 different applications, and there were requests for more than $200 million. This is the 5th year that the program has been in place. And over these 5 years, the program has provided $256 million to more than 45 projects. And that concludes my comments and updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. On the note of ATC MDT project selection, MAC has worked with MACDOT and ADOT and many of our member agencies to develop and submit a proposal. Although we were not selected, I want to thank all of you who have participated and assisted with the proposal. It was an extremely short fuse effort involving a large number of regional agencies. And I'm very proud of it and would credit it to the strong institutional collaboration and the trust among us developed through things like MAC ITS Committee, Aztec Committee, and other regional functions. Again, I just want to say thank you for your support, and we look forward to the future grant opportunities. Next slide, please. This report is to provide a heads up with the ITS committee members that this year, 2021, we plan to program the remainder of the competitive projects identified in the MAC SMNO plan for federal fiscal year 2023 through 2025. Committee members might remember that in 2019, the ITS committee worked very hard on the call for projects for the fiscal years of 2020 through 2022. For the sake of the context, those projects were used the federal CMAQ funding source, and the funding mechanism is referred to as the Transportation Improvement Projects, or TIPS. What we show here in this slide is MAC's TIP programming timeline for the year 2021. Thank you, Eric. A few things to point out here are the important dates. The first one on the left-hand side is the intended release for the call for project is somewhere in late July. Application due, typically a month and a half, somewhere in mid-September. The selection results is expected to be announced in the November ITS committee meeting. And finally, it takes a month and a half to get it through all the MAC approval. Finally, the MAC Regional Council's approval to add those selected projects in the TIPS. So I want to point out that to start this year, it gives us plenty of time for, say, the 2023 project that in the slide on the right-hand side, it shows that when it's programmed in the TIPS, we will literally still have about 5 to 6 months before the beginning of the 2023, which is the first year of the fiscal target. Next slide, please. So there are some preparation that needs to happen. We've been working with Patrick Stone, and I know Patrick is online today. He is the supervisor of the MAC TIP group, who is a successor of Terry Kennedy, whom we worked with in the previous call for projects. Where we are now is we are working with Patrick to identify the available budget per bucket and per fiscal year for this call for projects. Other steps that needs to happen are a series of working group meetings to finalize our decision on things like the ground rules, definitions, and we also need to look at the application form as well as the evaluation criteria. Here, I'd like to encourage committee member to participate in our working group meeting and voice your opinion, because it is through this consensus process that we define how the call for project should go. The TIP programming group meetings is expected to start in February and try to get some momentum going. So the plan is to meet twice a month initially, and then we will provide the monthly update at the ITS committee meeting. I would like to pause a little bit here and see if there's any questions. Hearing none. Next slide, please. Next item is an update on the Regional Community Network. I'd like to invite MAC RCN Program Manager Ryan Gish for an update on the recent initiatives. Ryan?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, or good morning, Chair and members of the ITS committee. Just a couple little items to kind of update you guys on, just let you know some little items and one little kind of breach that we had recently. First foremost, just kind of some of the fiber outages and repairs we've been working through, just working with some of the agencies. We had a few downed, we'll call them secondary paths. So not anything major, but some stuff we would like to get patched up so that way we can get some of these redundant paths back online, especially some of the major ones. So we had Mesa, we still have a downlink between their, I think their MRDC and out to Gilbert. So that one is kind of an important one just to keep the East Valley online and keep a lot of those guys happy. We also have a small break out in Goodyear. They've been working with those guys trying to get that secondary path back up. And also another break, or it's not really a break, it's a wireless link to Queen Creek from Mesa that we've been having some issues with. So I'm going to continue working with the respective agencies to help get these repairs done or get these links back up. On another note regarding we had a major outage of our network management system due to we'll call it a major security breach. I'm not sure if many of you have the SolarWinds or Orion products, but we use that for our network management system for the RCN. Luckily, I guess I just want to assure everybody that we've taken actions to kind of
I think somehow we lost Ryan. I don't know if anyone else could hear. David, can you?
I lost him on my end as well. No, I lost him on my end as well.
Okay.
All right, how about now?
Oh, you're back.
Sorry. I think it's jumping between teams and close.
Ryan, feel free to hang up the phone call on Teams.
I just did that, yeah. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I'm sorry. When do you guys last remember me saying? SolarWinds?
I think SolarWind, yeah.
Okay, I'll just kind of step back. So again, we had a major outage of our network management system, which is the SolarWinds Orion product. They had a major security breach in their software nationwide, worldwide, and it was a pretty big security breach. So I just kind of wanted to reassure everybody that we've taken actions to dissolving these potential threats. First off, we're not running any of the affected versions, but just to be sure, we went ahead and formatted the server that was running the software and applications, and kind of awaiting to hear what SolarWinds Orion has to say about some of their latest versions. They've released some versions that are kind of like hot fixes, but I'm kind of a little leery about installing any of those new versions quite yet. So anyway, I just want everybody to understand that's also that server doesn't have any outside access. It's just on the RCN, so it's running on the private side. So any updates, we don't have to, it doesn't have access to the public side. So it kind of makes it a little less of a threat as well. But the next note onto that would be I've been trying to do some switch and software firmware upgrades, but usually a lot of that's done through the network management software, and I've been unable to do some of that. So hopefully moving forward, I can do some of those more manually, and I can get some of those done. So I will let, if I'm going to be taking down one of your switches or doing a reboot after the firmware upgrades, I'll be sure to let you guys know. So moving forward again, the last item we have here is the task force for the regional fiber maintenance project. Eric, Nav, and I have been working on this and wanted to let you guys know, or as a reminder, January 26th at 9 a.m., we're going to have our next meeting for this task force to kind of like iron out some of the last details. And hopefully by the time of our next ITS committee meeting, we'll have a more formal update and let you guys know how we're going to be proceeding with this project. And that concludes my update, unless anybody has any questions, comments.
All right, hearing none. Thank you, Ryan. Lastly, I would like to provide an announcement that is not on the agenda. There's an upcoming project to develop and assist with the implementation of traffic mitigation strategies for the upcoming ADOT I-10 Broadway curve construction projects. And the budget of the project is about $480K, and the duration is expected to last through the I-10 Broadway curve construction period. An RFP can be expected after the MAC Regional Council Executive Committee's approval on January 19, 2021. And with that, I concluded my report. Thank you.
Jeff, just wanted to let you know. Oh, go ahead, David.
Go ahead, Eric.
Jeff, you actually skipped the EVP update.
Oh, I did.
Do you mind?
Okay.
We're going to go back to
Not
that.
at all. Not at all. So I was out of sync. And I apologize for skipping the beat here. So this is the recap of the December 7th MAC EVP working group meeting. Again, I mean, why do we have this working group? Is that EVP is kind of a important function of traffic signal systems that uniquely involve fire department. In most cases, they are the main users, and also the department that decided on the systems and the functionality of it. But since it's part of the traffic signal system, it also involves the ITSO traffic folks of a city or jurisdictions. Also, as a trend that the other first responders are trying to get onto the services, things like the ambulances and the police. So December 7th, we had this working group meeting, which was very productive. It was the first time co-facilitated by the city of Tempe and Mesa. In that meeting, we provided an update on the recent EVP implementations. Most significantly, Mesa provided a report on this ongoing MAC emerging technology pilot that's experimenting with a central-based EVP system. And what that means is simply moving away from the traditional approach to actually require installing hardware in the vehicle and also hardware at the intersections. The central base is relying on the real-time GPS data information of the fire engine and using the central system to issue a command to the intersection. And also a lot of discussion was on the auto aid agreement, what used to call the mutual aid. That is, these fire departments all help each other. I mean, through the central dispatch, such as the Phoenix 911 or Mesa 911, depends on your geographic area of the incidents. All these fire departments kind of helping out each other. That means that they traverse outside of their jurisdictions. So that makes the interoperability very important. And the fact that the EVP system are procured mostly determined by the fire departments. Over the years, there has been different type of systems deployed in the regions. So interoperability is really one of the key target to address in these working group meetings. So I will also take the opportunity to encourage committee members in your jurisdictions, say there's been staff changes, even your fire department folks, and what we found out is, some of the newer staff, they might not be familiar with the issues involved with the EVP, and this forum is really a good source to get it educated and to get on to some regional dialogue into some long-term address on these issues, such as interoperability, such as the traffic signal phasing provided during the preemption phases. So out of that meeting, we had a couple of decisions we will need to do another quick survey of in the entire region to find out where people have these days and what they have on their mind moving on to try to gauge the interoperability gaps, the neighboring jurisdiction that's running a different type of system or configurations and whatnot. And so another decision made is we're making, in light of the importance of these discussions, we're making these working group meeting, instead of meeting every 6 months, we are now meeting every 3 months. So for those of you who are interested or knowing that your fire department might be interested in this subject, please contact me or Eric or Omar to join this working group discussion. With that, I conclude my report.
Thank you very much, Jeff. There's a lot to go over. Are there any comments from the committee members? All right, I think that just means we did a great job covering it. So we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is ADOT Runway Driving Project scope changes. On May 15th, just to recap, May 15th, 2019, the ITS committee recommended the approval of the non-competitive project overview for the ADOT Runway Driving Detection System along segments of Loop 101 West and Loop 202. The project was programmed in the MAG TIP in June of 2019 for FY 2020 to 2022. ADOT is currently requesting to revise the scope of work, including the proposed locations and start dates. ADOT will provide a presentation related to this request, and this item is for information discussion and possible action to recommend approval of the requested project change. At this time, I would like to invite Susan Anderson with ADOT to present the project scope change request. Susan?
All right, thank you. And thank you to everybody on the committee for allowing us to come forward with this proposed project scope change. I want to give you a little bit of background on that. So the next slide, please. We'll keep going to the next one. Next slide.
It should be, this is Eric, it should be on the next slide, the wrong way detection.
Yes. So that's kind of our cover.
Okay.
So everybody knows that the project that we're looking at, it's been proposed as part of the SMNO strategy, fitting under the integrated corridor management strategy with the purpose of implementing wrong way detection along the freeway locations. And the locations that were proposed and are recommended are those that have been experiencing the highest incidence of wrong way collisions. A lot of this is based on information and data we collect within ADOT and also with our DPS partners. So we've looked at a lot of the 911 calls over several years, kind of where the locations are happening and where DPS actually interacts with some of the wrong way incidents. Next slide. Based on that data information, the scope originally identified the two highest segments that were experiencing wrong way incidents, and those were along Loop 101 between I-10 and Grand, as well as along Loop 202 from I-10 to McClintock. And that was our original scope, was we really wanted to look at implementing wrong way detection at those interchanges within those segments. Some of the concerns that ADOT has run into is that ADOT is not the jurisdiction controlling the signals at those interchanges, and much of the infrastructure being it would require some ground disturbance. So there's a number of items that would require a little bit more design effort and coordination with other agencies to get some contracts in place. Knowing that we've got funding available, we're looking for a way to deploy a little bit faster and also achieve greater coverage, knowing that this was just about 10 miles of our freeway segment. We are now coming together with a proposed revision for our scoping. And so I'll ask for the next slide. The revision we're asking for is now to change the scope, at least for this next year, for the Loop 101, instead of being just I-10 to US 60, to cover the entire Loop 101 freeway corridor. This aligns with our Loop 101 mobility project, and we feel it would have a very good benefits for us. This would allow us to install thermal cameras on our DMS boards throughout the whole corridor, which really gets us mainline coverage, not specifically the ramps, but we would have mainline coverage that really helps our DPS partners with tracking wrong way vehicles. Next slide, please. To provide you all with a little bit of info, the I17 Pilot Project, we do have thermal cameras set up at the interchanges, so they are at the cross streets, which detect wrong way vehicles as they enter an exit ramp. What a lot of people don't recognize right away is also that we have thermal cameras placed along the main line, and those are there to detect wrong way vehicles when they enter a freeway segment, and also to allow us to track wrong way vehicles as they're traveling on the freeways. We're looking at opportunities to then install thermal cameras where we can on the main line to allow for this tracking. This is really our main communication with our DPS troopers and the dispatchers, so they're able to communicate and really monitor what's happening when a wrong way event occurs. Next slide, please. This graphic is really just provided to give you a little bit more of an idea of how the setup would be, the concept. We know that at our DMS boards, we already have available power and communication. So being able to install this is very quick, very easy for us, and each site costs about $18,000, but it's something that our crews can do fairly quickly. With that, it would give us coverage of a lot of the freeway corridor, which is an advantage to all of our operations. So next slide, please. So with this request, we're requesting to revise the scope to install runway detection cameras region-wide along Loop 101 freeway. This would include purchasing the runway detection cameras and installing them at DMS locations. We've identified about 20 sites along the Loop 101 freeway corridor, and this would allow us to achieve mainline coverage. We've got a schedule, looks like we could do within about 18 months, half of that for procurement, the other half for then installation and integration. Most of that done with our on-call contracts and in-house staff. And as mentioned, the project cost would be approximately $18,000 per location. And it looks like we were looking at just for fiscal year 21, using those funds to do the Loop 101 corridor. And next slide. Our reporting on runway would continue as it was proposed originally. So safety would continue to coordinate with DPS for our runway data, and we'd be tracking the number of incursions that happen. We are continuing to do that. All these metrics are tracked in a database, and ADOT management receives those reports on a monthly basis, and we could share that at any time that there's interest. So with that, I respectfully request a modification to the scope.
Thank you, Susan. Are there any questions from the committee? And while you're formulating those, I did have one question, Susan.
Sure.
You did mention that one of the concerns with the previous scope as far as the location for the coverage of the runway driving implementation was that many of the signals or the interchanges were controlled by the local agencies. And I think that's even more of an issue with the proposed coverage. For example, most of the 101 is, covered by Tempe, for example, and those interchanges, all of those are operated by the city, as well as some of the previous ones that were along part of the segment through Phoenix. So I'm just wondering how that changes or how that's being addressed differently with this revised scope.
And that's why with this scope, we were looking at just the mainline segments and connecting with ADOT's DMS boards. We know we can install those rather quickly because those are our devices. Looking at the ramps particularly is going to take a lot more effort. And that's why the funding for the future years, we're probably going to have to look more at which locations ADOT can address specifically, or which agencies we can develop an IGA with quickly to get that partnership to install equipment on the ramps.
Okay, so to clarify, the diagrams that you showed, it showed some of the ramp equipment as well in the full-scale installation, but this is limited just to the DMS signs and the equipment on for the main line. Is that
we would be looking at just the DMS signs.
Okay. There was a question that was in the chat about the fiscal impacts. How are those changed with the revised scope?
I think that's where knowing that the funding was available, and that's really why we were looking for the scope change, was currently with the federal funding being limited to just the Loop 101 between I-10 and US 60. We weren't seeing an available way to use that efficiently or quickly within the time frame of when the funds are available. So if we were able to change the scope, then we know that we have the resources available to then utilize the funds during the fiscal year 21. So with that, we're trying to minimize any change in a fiscal impact per se.
Okay, so the change is solely limited to the scope, not to the fiscal, the budgeting amounts or anything like that. You'll be able to do the revised scope within the previously approved budget.
Yes, that's what we're looking at using.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members or MAG staff? All right, with that, I'm looking for a motion to recommend approval of the requested project scope changes, proposed locations, and start dates. If you could please raise your hand in the chat. All right. Thank you, Alan. Do we have a second? Scott? All right, we have a motion and a second. So let me go ahead and poll everyone. And I apologize, not sure if it's just my screen, but I just went dark. All right, let me go ahead and poll the committee. Susan?
Yes, I'll approve.
I thought we could count on that vote. Hugh?
Yeah, that one's an easy one.
Yeah.
Tricia?
Yay.
Alan?
Yay.
Albert? Trini?
Yeah.
Hong?
Yay.
Bruce?
Yay.
Young?
Yay.
Steve?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Marshall?
Yes.
Thank you. Raquel?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
April?
Yay.
Tessa?
Yay.
All right, and with that, the motion is approved. Thank you, Susan.
Thank
With
you
that, we'll
all.
move on to, thank you. We'll move on to item 6 on the agenda, ITS training opportunities. MAG staff will provide an update on ITS training opportunities for 2021, including Syncro, Transinc, and IT for ITS training. At this point, I would like to invite Omar with MAG to present this item. Omar?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the ITS committee. I'm pleased to be here with you today to give you an update regarding the training opportunities we have for 2021. Next slide, please. We informed you at the December ITS committee that all Syncro training will be conducted virtually in 2021. And the training sessions have 10 minutes only. To accommodate our usual number of trainees, we're planning to host 2 full Syncro training sessions with a total of 20 seats available. The first training session will be conducted in the first week of March on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, while the second training session will be conducted the following week of March 8th on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Due to the virtual setting, we're able to host an additional or third training session if enough interest was shown by the committee. So I'll be following up with an email to all committee members to request a list of the attendees and count those and see if there is enough interest for a third training session. Next slide, please. So the training will follow the usual format of providing beginner training on day 1 and 2, and advanced training on day 3. Some of the items that will be covered in the beginner's training will cover items like file setup, regular 4-legged intersection setup, scenario manager, producing program reports, and initial setup for optimization and timing space diagram, and also how to manage files and projects. While advanced training will cover optimization more in depth, cover signal phasing, synchro integrations with SIM traffic, and also how to properly calibrate SIM traffic. Next slide, please. So there's other training provided by Syncro labeled as intermediate training that covers items more on the development side, such as highway capacity manual analysis, traffic impact analysis, and trip generation. And if your agency is interested in this type of training, please send me an email. There was also questions raised by committee members in the past regarding a potential need for customized Syncro scenarios or Syncro training. Those were more for localized or special scenarios, such as setting up interchanges, complex interchanges, such as spuies or diverging diamonds, and also how to use Syncro to troubleshoot timing issues when there's a complaint, when the agency receives a complaint. So we wanted to gauge the committee's interest regarding these special types of trainings, as it would not be covered by the usual Syncro training. And I want to take this opportunity to open it for discussion regarding these special scenarios or any other scenarios that your agency encounters with Syncro. If anyone has any comments on that, please feel free to chime in. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please.
We have a quiet committee this morning.
The next slide is the IT for ITS training. We informed the committee in the past that MEG is also going to be providing this training. And this is meant to familiarize agency technicians and ITS staff on some key IT principles to kind of help bridge the gap between IT and ITS, and also provide staff with troubleshooting techniques when facing common IT issues. This training will occur every Thursday for 3 consecutive weeks, starting Thursday, February 11th of 2021. And the same training will be provided in both an AM and a PM 2-hour time period. This will help accommodate if you have any other commitments. And we're also not limiting seats for this training. I'll follow up in an email as well to request a list of attendees from each agency. Next slide, please. Some of the items that will be covered in this training are the OSI model review and fundamentals of Ethernet, Wireshark's demo to show how to set up devices on the NMS, fiber optics and setting up terminals in the cabinet, and basic troubleshooting. At this point, I'd like to invite Eric Nava to provide an update on Transinc training. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Sorry, I could not get that to run. Thank you, ITS, Mr. Chair, and members of the ITS committee meeting. So, as many of you are aware, for the current FY20 set of TSOP projects, our traffic signal optimization program, we started a new venture into doing the performance evaluation of projects in a different manner this year to try to do performance evaluation for all projects, but for some specific projects is using a software hardware combination called Transinc, which is a tool that is used on the iPad in the field, similar to a floating car method, but collects much more information and allows for additional functionalities that we've found to be very advantageous, specifically for the TSOP as a program. So in this FY21 year, we tasked Kittleson and Associates to develop a performance evaluation methodology that includes the use of Transinc as well as a training opportunity. Now that we've essentially wrapped up all of the TSOP projects for the last fiscal year, and we soon will be beginning the FY 2021 projects, we are going to be offering a Transinc training virtual seminar, which will be led by Kittleson and Associates. We're still working on the final date for that training. Again, everything's getting a little crowded with all the opportunities that we have coming down very soon. So we're looking at a late January or early February date. It'll be a 3 to 4 hour training, most likely 3-hour training. And we're looking at possibly the Thursday after the February ITS committee meeting. But again, we're working to finalize that date. This training will be open to all member agencies, to the ITS committee, as well as the current list of MAG ITS on-call consultants. And for the purpose of that is twofold. One is to, again, introduce the Transinc software as a tool for performance evaluations of the TSOP program. The tool itself is a very useful tool for many other purposes related to traffic signal optimization. But specifically for the purposes of this training, it would be for the performance evaluation of TSOP projects. This tool is already, MAG already has acquired licenses to the software. So having the training opportunity for the on-call consultants will also help prepare the consultants for the next few fiscal years to learn how to use the software. So if another on-call consultant is selected to do the performance evaluations for fiscal year 21 projects, they will have the basic training and the tips and know-hows to use the software for the next round of projects. So again, this will be open to the list of at least one representative from each on-call consultant related to the TSOP program, as well as all member agencies from the ITS committee. As previously mentioned, Kittleson and Associates will be leading on the training seminar. This will be virtual. Some of the topics that we'll be covering is how the performance evaluation works in terms of the methodology, and specifically related to the Transinc software. And we'll also go in as an introduction into the hardware and the software of the training or of the tool. There's a desktop version as well as a mobile version that is installed in an iPad. So we'll be going over all of the details of that, as well as the how-tos and the tips, things that will allow you to become proficient in the use of the tool, as well as the ability for local agencies to possibly use this if they have a TSOP project for the fiscal year 21 or beyond that, as well as the data or the output that comes from the tool and the data that comes from that, as well as how we feed that into the performance evaluation using the various performance measures. Again, mainly it's the travel time and number of stops that the Transinc tool will provide us, but the interface and the use of that data and the compiling of that data is, it works in a very powerful way. So we're excited to begin to share this, and more information will be coming out very soon as we nail the day down, as well as the time and everything like that. So with that concludes my portion of this ITS agenda item.
All right, thank you, Omar and Eric. Are there any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair, I would like to, I'd like to thank Omar and Eric for this great update, and just want to add to their presentation that ITS training is one of the important services that MAC provide to the region. And I would like to encourage all of you to think outside the box beyond what we talk about today for other type of training needs, and get back to us, and we will try to put it in and accommodate it. For things like, I know Aztec now has a new task force with focus on the technicians, and which is an important part of the ITS workforce. If you could think of any specific type of training, please provide it to us, and we will see how we could provide some kind of training. There are also the Transinc, and like Eric mentions, that this go around is really kind of tailored for the TSOP evaluation workflow. But then again, if you can think of using Transinc for, say, just implementations, development of a timing plan, and that could be a separate ITS training opportunity. So just keep that in mind, and if you have any idea or questions, feel free to contact any one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And that makes a nice segue into our next agenda item, which is a request for future agenda items. In addition to a request for additional training topics or potential training topics, if any members of the committee have topics or issues of interest that you would like to have considered for discussion at a future meeting, feel free to reach out to me or any of the MAG staff, and we'll get those on a future agenda. With that, we'll move on to item 8, comments from the ITS committee members. At this time, we'd like to give everybody an opportunity to provide updates on ITS-related project activities in their jurisdictions. So I'll begin with Susan from ADOT.
No updates today, thank you. Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Hugh?
Nothing from Goodyear at the moment.
Thank you. Tricia?
No update from Mesa today.
Thank you. Alan?
Nothing from Glendale today.
Thank you. Albert?
No updates for Surprise.
Trini, anything from Chandler?
Sorry, I was muted. No update. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Hong?
No update from Scottsdale. Thank you.
Bruce, anything from Phoenix?
Nothing from Phoenix.
Yin Yang?
No update.
Steve?
With Peoria, we actually just finished a CCTV expansion project. It's kind of still wrapping up, but we have 23 new CCTV cameras deployed, as well as a new server to store the recordings, 72-hour recordings for those 23 cameras. I think I might have mentioned it last time, possibly, but two of the locations are actually installed on a street light with a radio hop back to an existing signal, so that we can better monitor 2 of our high schools, the ingress and egress, and a lot of the issues that arise from that. So we're excited to have the additional cameras, and we have 4 more that we'll probably be adding as part of that project in the near future. And we are also having to replace, as with just operating dollars, we've been having a number of about 4-year-old cameras starting to drop out on us. So it seems like the expected lifespan of 4 or 5 years is probably pretty accurate. So we're looking for future budgeting items to make sure that we're budgeting for all the cameras, because we have a number of them out there that we expect to probably fail in the next year or so. Well, that's it from Peoria.
Thank you, Steve. One follow-up question, if I may. I understood that you weren't actually constantly recording the video, that you were using the onboard SD cards and only retrieving it as needed. Is that just doing it differently on some cameras, or have you changed the manner in which you're doing the recording?
We've actually changed the manner in which we're doing the recording. We had a number of cameras that over time had failed, that had the SD cards in them, or had the SD cards fail. So with the new ones, trying to get licenses, server licenses for each camera, we found that it's just been easier to do it this way. Plus, there's still a big potential for us switching to a Genetec software instead of the Exact Vision that we're using. And the Genetec doesn't use the SD card. So in kind of preparation for that possible conversion, we just decided to go ahead and just record to the server. The possible conversion to Genetec would be to merge with the Glendale's real-time crime center and merge the two feeds for that purpose. That's kind of been put on hold due to budget constraints, but I know that our police department is very excited about it, and most likely would be the ones actually funding the conversion to the Genetec software if that moves forward next year.
Great. Thank you for the additional information. Scott, anything to report from Pinal County?
No updates from Pinal County.
Thank you. Marshall?
So Queen Creek has finished installing all the equipment and software for our Ellsworth Road, Econolite, ATSPM, Detector Plus demonstration project. So we'll be collecting the before data during the month of January. Hopefully looking to implement the suggested timings in February and then doing after data collection. So I may be reaching out to Eric and Jeff to see if we could also do some Transinc runs out there and get that kind of data as well.
Great. Thank you for the update. Raquel?
Nothing to update from Apache Junction.
Mike?
Nothing to report at this time.
April?
For the two adaptive projects that are part of the MAG, our competitive projects, we are in negotiations for Bell Road Phase 2 and all of Dunlop Avenue. So hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have a selection with the vendor and be able to move forward pretty aggressively with that project, and kind of the same timeline for the one of the RADS projects that was funded through MAG as well. I know that they are in negotiations as well and planning on moving forward with a vendor by the end of this month as well. So that's it.
Thank you. Tessa?
Nothing to report from El Mirage.
Tony, anything from FHWA?
Nothing from Federal Highway, thank you.
And John, anything from Buckeye?
All right, I'm sorry, found mute button. No, nothing to report. We're good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your attention for the first meeting of 2021. And we look forward to seeing you all next month. The next meeting of the ITS committee will be 10 a.m. on Wednesday, February 3rd. And again, we'll be by virtual conference. With that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, all.